But that's the propagation of the gospel. Did you know that's why we're still here after 2,000 years? Not because Jesus has been coming back in every generation and holding camp meetings and healing people by seasides. No. Because people have been surviving afflictions and persecutions and tribulations and pain and hell and holding their heads up to their Father and saying, in the middle of it, Christ is in me, the hope of glory. And whole generations of people have come to Christ because of that and said, that's the God that I want to serve. It's why I am concerned when the bulk of our converts come in because they've been presented with a God that if you'll accept Him, your life will go better. Come to Jesus. He'll fix stuff. Come to Jesus. It's a great life to live if you come to Jesus because He'll take all your problems and roll them away. And then the first problem they have, they feel like someone sold them a lie. And instead of introducing the people to Jesus as the problem solver, how about we introduce them to Jesus as the one who restores the world and asks for us to participate? The restoration of the world's a dirty job, right? I mean, how are you going to restore anything that's broken? It's a dirty job. You ever fixed up anything knocked down, broken down? Sometimes you just want to knock the whole thing down, dig a big hole, shove it off in the hole, put dirt over the top of it, and start over, right? I mean, if I were God, that's what I think I would do with this mess. Just go, oh, you know what? Forget it. I mean, I put a bunch of planets in the solar system. We'll just start on Mars. Let's just start over. All I got to do is give Mars a good atmosphere, change the gravitation, we'll just make it a habitable zone. We'll just put a new Adam and a new Eve over there. We'll start all over again. These people aren't going to know the difference. They're all going to kill themselves anyway. So just let them go to hell. But I don't believe that. This is why I'm the ultimate optimist, because I'm a believer in the kingdom. God doesn't lose. I'm not a believer in all of us, but I'm a believer in the Christ in us. It's why I try to preach Christ to people. Because if I could get you to believe Christ actually lives in you, you might take it serious. And if you took it serious, you might care about your neighborhood. You might care about your neighbor. You might start caring about your enemy. I mean, it's one thing to care about the people that like you. What would happen in the world if you started caring about the people that didn't? This is an absolute restoration. God asks you to participate. Your job's not to get to heaven. Getting to heaven's God's job for you. He's going to take you there. That's all on Him, man. But you get the role of participating in this beautiful renewal. We are the visual of Christ's afflictions. We speak of Jesus to the world. And how do we get them to believe it? Because we're rich? Because we're successful? Because we're happy? Or because we survive through suffering? Goes a lot farther. And He knew it would. It's why He decided to inaugurate the kingdom by dying on a cross. Not so that you would go die, but so that you would realize suffering isn't bigger than your King. He just goes into suffering and He comes out the other side a resurrected man. And He tells you, you can do the same because Christ is in you. The hope of glory. What's the glory? Stone rolled away. Tomorrow could be better. I walk through this with Jesus because Christ is in me, the hope of all glory. Part of the reason that I said what I did, I'm landing, about going to heaven is not your role, is because the message of go to heaven has given us, it has reinforced a hyper-individuality in the church. Because what it has done is made us think only about our individual soul going to heaven. And following Christ was never simply about your individual soul. You are an individual within the body of Christ, not an individual outside of the body of Christ. Okay? So this is why this community that we have here has become more important to you, because as you have become part of the community, you have realized that the individual gets strengthened. He or she gets stronger. Why is that? Because when God made Adam, He made Adam with a need. He said, it is not good for man to be alone. Okay, time out. Then why'd you make him alone? You go, oh, you shouldn't talk to God that way. This is good. Wrestle this kind of stuff with God. Okay? This is okay. God says it's not good that man be alone. Time out. Why'd you make him alone then? Here's the answer to that, I think. So that man would know what it was like to be alone and he would realize it wasn't good. Okay? So all it takes is just you go be an individual for a while and you'll realize that some community would be a good idea. So God puts Adam to sleep, pulls a rib out of his side, fashions Eve and hands her to Adam, and Adam goes, at last I see the image of God in another human being. This is the way the world's supposed to work. And God then branches out of community. So your growth happens within relationship. It's why there's an Eve. And it's why Adam without Eve had a lack, because we all do. The community of believers, why are they important? Because they help us in the midst of our suffering and in the midst of our pain. They lift our arms. They become our support. I think we would do better in the world, church, if the world could enter the doors of the church and see shattered, broken, worn out, beat up, exhausted people who loved one another and who believed for the hope of glory. And that's so opposite of how we're trying to mold it, because we're trying to be fancy and welcoming and fun and happy and up and full of life. And I'm not against any of that. What moron would be against happy or against life? But is it creating disciples of Christ, or is it creating members of big churches? Is it creating disciples of a Christ who walks through crisis, or is it adding to the bottom line of a burgeoning budget and the need to expand? It's not about the individual building or the church that I'm even talking about, but the body of Christ at large.